between light and dark is so very thin.
I am God! And I have become legend.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Becoming Legend. Guys, this is episode 22. Brief introductions for those of you who are new. I am Tweezii. Joining me, as always, Birduup, Birdman Jones.
Birdman Jones.
Okay, good. I wanted to make sure I had them all. So we're going to do a real quick intro, guys, because we got a lot of stuff that we want to talk about, and we only got a small amount of time that we can spend with you beautiful people. So real quick, we're going to run through some housekeeping. Now, this is episode 22. We are going to be doing one more episode this year before we take a break for the holidays. You know, as we encourage everybody to do, spend time with your family, spend time with your loved ones. We are also going to make sure that we take that time to spend with the family. We're also going to be working behind the scenes to make some changes to the podcast that you will notice. But that'll be something that happens in the new year. So right now our plans are as this, and I just want to let you guys know up front. This episode 22, where you're going to be kind of catching up to some of the lore that we've wanted to talk about over the last year, but we haven't really gotten to due to some other reasons. I know that Craig has some stuff that he's going to talk about. I'm going to talk about some stuff. Craig, whatever. I'm going to talk about some stuff that kind of just some clarification on some stuff and bringing in some new lore that we haven't really gotten to talk about regarding the 9. Really excited for that. Hope you guys stick around. Episode 23, the next episode that we are going to be putting out. That episode, we are actually going to be talking about the Bungie 30th anniversary celebration that they're doing. As of recording, we don't know what that means, what that's going to look like or anything like that. But once we know, you'll know, you know? So with all that being said, first of all, man, thank you again for joining me for yet another episode.
I'm glad to be here.
How's your Guardian?
Pretty great. My Guardian is doing well. I'm kind of giving him a little bit of a vacay, you know, after the Halloween event, the season of the Lost, the Festival of the Lost.
Yeah.
You know, I really just tend to hop in for an occasional Grandmaster, maybe a raid or two a week to help out the clan. Admittedly, I have been spending time with my other Guardians of the Galaxy. And that game's been taking up a lot of my time, to be honest. But I'm still keeping in touch with Destiny. I'm still keeping an eye on the 30th anniversary coming up. I know that later this episode, we're going to discuss the absolute massive wall that was just released on Thursday for the TWAB. So that will be coming towards the end of the episode. Stay tuned. And I really can't wait to find out more about Savathûn and see what changes, what lore introductions they might give us in the 30th anniversary. I'm not expecting anything heavy, but we do know that the dungeon is going to be based on the 9, which we'll be discussing a little bit today, as a matter of fact.
Is it actually? Is it based on the 9? I actually missed that.
I believed it was, it's something to do with the 9 on the Cosmodrome. They really haven't shown us anything, but it's 9 themed, 9 oriented something. Perhaps new weapons of the 9. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm excited because I also remember them saying that this was going to be them kind of taking a retrospective and looking at all of Bungie titles that Bungie has released over the past 30 years. Destiny's not the only game they've made. There's also a massive franchise that they're responsible for creating that is being celebrated right now by the community, myself included. But yeah, so I'm just excited to see what all we get. Maybe we get to actually look like the Master Chief. Oh, goodness. Like, there's already a helmet that is in the game that is a Master Chief helmet without being a Master Chief helmet. But, like, I want full Spartan armor, man. Mm-hmm. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
All right. Sweet. So, Bird, let's start with you. You've had a thing that you've been wanting to talk about for months now that just we keep putting on, like, at the end of the podcast being like, hey, if we have time, we're going to talk about it here. And then we never have time. So, can you tell us about this star?
Yes. Yes, we're going to do a little bit of discussion on the Vex Star. I absolutely have been wanting to talk about this since our early episodes when we were doing massive coverage of Clovis Bray and his discoveries. But at the time, the story was just pushing along so fast paced, we felt it more important to cover what was going on. So I am glad we get to go back and discuss this. So for those of you who need a little bit of context, this is from the Beyond Light campaign DLC, or actually it's specifically from the Glassway strike. If you remember on Europa, you go through the Glassway, you enter Braytech Labs, and at the end, you fight a massive Hydra that comes through a Vex portal. Well, if you've ever wondered what's on the other side of the portal, what was the real reason for that portal, they kind of discuss it a little bit in the strike, a little bit. You get a little tidbit that Clovis Bray constructed this. He was told to do so by the darkness, and what he did was make a portal that goes to the Vex, what is believed to be the Vex homeworld. Whenever he stepped through this Vex gate that was constructed, he immediately saw a massive star that was I'm forgetting, what is it when a star is about to collapse?
Isn't it like a red giant or something?
A red
like that?
giant. Thank you so much. Yes,
I don't actually know.
I think so. Or a supernova? No, supernova is when a star explodes. I'm sorry, y'all. It's space stuff. Anyway, he went through the portal. He found a massive star that should have died millions of years ago by the scientist calculations that went with him. But what the Vex have done is they have continued to feed it and cultivate it into a forged star. So the metals that you see on the Vex, the actual frames that they create whenever they're fighting you, those metals are created from this forged star. If you know a little bit about the Vex, you may be familiar that the Vex themselves are the white Vex milk that you find inside of those frames, not the frames themselves. So it's kind of like an AI supercomputer cyber liquid being kind of deal. And this is what was discovered by Clovis Bray. And whenever he went through there, he was trying to harvest Vex for the construction of the Exos. And, we all know that didn't go so smoothly in the beginning when he was first introducing Vex Milk into the system, and it was absolutely destroying the minds of Guardians. And needless to say, the Vex were not happy about their materials being stolen from these periodic invasions in the portal. They didn't keep it open all the time. What they would try to do is just open it aperiodically so the Vex could not predict when they were going and to harvest these materials. But the Vex caught on and started slowly but surely sending small invasions through the portal. First a couple Vex, a couple Hydras here and there, but what eventually amounted into was the massive invasion of the Vex into Europa, which caused the battle, which is detailed in the lore tab of the Lament. That is a whole nother tab. I'm not going to go into that story right now. If you read the lore tab of the Lament, probably one of the best swords in the game right now, there are some pretty good details in there about I'd say one of the top space battles in Destiny. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's my quick little spiel on the Forged Star. The Vex have been feeding hydrogen into it to keep it going. They've put solar panels all over. They are harvesting the heck out of this star. I personally believe it is the home planet of the Vex, if not where they first came into being and really just started to fuse with whatever materials were available in space near them at the time, which was really just this star and some other atoms, really. But that could be the introduction of where the Vex came from in our timeline, and how are they able to continually send millions and millions of Vex no matter how many we destroy, because they have this star. If we don't do anything about this star, we're never going to solve the problem of the Vex. And right now, there's no attempts being made to really communicate with them or understand them or form some kind of truce like we're getting with the Elixni and the Cabal. So at some point, we're going to need to solve this issue with the Vex, and how are we going to do so? I really can't wait to find out. I hope they send us into that portal one day, someday, or it could just be another location in the Destiny lore that seems amazing, but for storytelling purposes, we're just going to keep moving on.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just imagine, like there's that scene in the last Matrix movie where Neo, like, walks into the machine world. I just imagine that being like what it's like for us as we walk in and just being introduced to different types of Vex that we've never seen before that are more, because all of the Vex that we really encounter are really built for the purpose of like they all have their own individual routines that they're responsible for. But the majority of the ones that we experience are, more militaristic. But there's obviously a whole other side to Vex society that we know nothing about. We know that they're a hive mind structure, and we know that between the hive mind and the militaristic units that we experience, there's got to be some sort of like industrial units that are making things. Mm-hmm. So what do these look like? Will we be able to forge an alliance where we can get something from them in return for something else? Who knows? Yeah. Because the Vex is one of those enemies that we've like explored kind of deeper. I think one of the first things that we really started doing to understand the Vex was the Vault of Glass, originally in Destiny 1. But we haven't really done a lot with them since. They haven't really been the central pivotal enemy for a large event. They've just been around. Mm-hmm. They are another type of enemy, and we've seen little bits and pieces of them in seasons. For example, the last season, the Vex played a very big role, but we're still not learning as much about the Vex. Mm-hmm. That last season that we had, what was it? Oh gosh, it's already been months, and I've already forgotten it. Not Season of the Chosen, not Season of Arrivals, Season of the Dawn. No, Season of the Splicer. There we go.
Yeah.
Even though Season of the Splicer, our main enemy was the Vex, we didn't really learn anything about the Vex. Season of the Splicer was an opportunity for us to learn more about the Elixir. So, again, we know a lot about a lot of different races now based off of our interactions. We have a better understanding, thanks to Callus and Keitel, about how Cabal society works and what they value and what's important and what's not. Mm-hmm. Their history. We know a lot more about the Elixir now because of our interactions with Mithrax and Aramis and the House of Devils and House of Kings and all of the houses. Mm-hmm. We have understandings about all of them. The ones that we're really left with questions about are the Vex. So I think you're right. We might go. It might not be soon. It might be something that we take care of after we finish with Savathûn. Might be, after Savathûn comes the Vex. But I definitely think that at some point we are going to have to learn more about them. We're going to have to face them in the galaxy, and if not destroy them, find a way to create balance.
Yes.
Because, we think they're that force that's in the Gardener and the Winnower that, brings balance to everything. It's neither good nor bad. They just exist. They're aligned with the darkness because they're radiolorian fluid. They are more susceptible to the darkness. But, they kind of just do their own thing. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, while I have the table to talk about the Vex just a little bit, I really think we already have the tools that we need to discover more about the Vex. There are countless documents and files in Braytech Labs right now on Europa that, as well, if we ever figure out how to get Mars back anyway, that really go into more details about the Vex. While we were just discussing right now, I was thinking about one of the reports, which actually was a study more into the nature of the Vex and how they function. And to break it down, the Vex are mimicry in a subatomic level. It was shown that if a substance is introduced to them, they will immediately determine if it is harmful or helpful to their environment. Can they use it to spread and create, or is it something that needs to be destroyed immediately? So during this period where Clovis was going to the Vex star Volantis, this actually, I would say, they don't say how long it was, but guessing in the lore, I would say at least 80 to 100 years, probably. They had a lot of time to milk this planet, and star and use it for their studies to create the exos. So during this time, one of the studies was they would introduce fire to the Vex, and immediately the Vex would kind of wobble, you could say, to create puffs of air, to create rhythms of air to immediately put out the fire. And this was done instantly, like within microseconds. So it's really interesting to see how the Vex react to what is around them. And like you say, we've really only seen them in a war perspective. We've always had to fight them. We've very rarely seen them peacefully. What are they actually trying to do? Is there something that we can find in common, a way to maybe help or coincide or even use the Vex for our means? You know, they're trying to conquer and transfer everything into the Vex, so everything is Vex in the past and future forever. But why? Why are they trying to do that? Is there a way that we can live side by side with them? Can we form a symbiotic relationship? I don't know. Kind of going into it, but these are the questions I have about the Vex. These are the things that we haven't been able to discuss in previous episode. I'm extremely interested in their motives, how they can be communicated with, their ability to go with the darkness more with the light. They have never been able to simulate the light, and yet they were able to simulate Oryx as our Rash before Oryx integrated with the darkness. So what does that mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, to kind of put the finishing touches on this conversation, I also think that this is something that we are going to learn more about, because we now know that Asher Mir, there was that story once all the planets disappeared. You had the final stories about how each of our vendors on each of the planets kind of dealt with the loss. Obviously Anna Bray escaped, but you have Sloan, yeah. Mm-hmm. Sloan stayed on Titan. You have, Asher Mir. One of the big things about Asher that new players may or may not realize is that the reason why he had the mechanical hand that he had is that he had come in contact with radiolarian fluid. And what radiolarian fluid will do is that if anything comes in contact with it, it will start to transform it into Vex. And so he was constantly it was only a matter of time until he turned into a full Vex, which is why that lore piece about him pulling down on the lake of radiolarian fluid and fully dousing himself was so important, because he finished turning himself into a Vex. And it became important because later in Season of the Splicer, once you're doing that final overdrive in the last city in the Fallen Quarter, right, there is a Harpy that is out there that is not engaging in the battle. And then if you go up and talk to them, obviously smarter people than us have already gone and done this. This is how we're able to know. It made chirps that when you slowed down and turned into Morse code, said assistant, which was the way in which Asher Mir referred to us.
Thank you, assistant.
So I think we're really going to get a better understanding of the Vex in general now that we know that Asher Mir both is a Vex and has been able to remain, to keep enough of his consciousness to communicate with us about it. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to see where that goes. I think that was a big development, and I think that with everything that they've kind of set up with the star, with everything, we're going to see this at some point. So I'm just excited to see when it pans out.
Yeah.
Man,
yes.
What a good topic.
Yes,
I don't know why we didn't get to this before. That's really it. I don't know why we didn't do it. For me and my topic, man, it is more of a topic that we've kind of talked about before. And then somebody in our Discord, actually, as a not even subtle plug for our Discord, the Coming Legend Discord, where you can talk with us, join our community, play video games with us, all the fun things. We started talking in our section about lore, in our lore channel, about the Nine. And we kind of talked about, a statement that I made in a previous episode, where when we were talking about Marsov and the creation of the Awoken, there are 9 members of the Yang Li Wei that are unaccounted for, that did not get turned into Awoken. We do not know what happened. And how there have been, because of the fact that we do not know too much about the nine. One of the assumptions is that, did those nine former humans, kind of merge with the nine to become the nine different consciousnesses that we know exist today. When you read through the lore book Dust, you can see that different members of the nine speak in different ways. We haven't understood like really what the difference of the nine are. Are the nine the planets, like the consciousness of the planets themselves? There's been a lot of questions. So I wanted to make sure, first of all, that we clarified what we know that the nine is. The nine have told us that they are, in fact, dark matter that got stuck into a gravitational loop in our orbit around our sun. And it was that gravitational loop that was able to allow them to create their own consciousness. They have been since before humanity was a thing. They have been around. They have seen everything that has happened. Mm-hmm. And they've just kind of been like, for a long time, they've been a casual observer.
Yeah.
And this is going to come into what I'm going to talk about in a second, because I really want to dive into, I think, a very important character that got introduced in that book, Dust, that we maybe didn't draw enough attention to, given what we know now. But I just want to make sure that we clarify this. The big thing with those 9 people going missing is that, again, it's a very specific number. It's not 8, it's not 10, it's not 52. With all of the lore that we have read from Bungie so far, there have been no accidents. There have been no mistakes. Everything that happens for a very specific reason, and sometimes it's just that we, the players, do not understand those reasons until months or years later once they start, tying these threads together. So the fact that it's 9 members of the Yang Li Wei that went missing, it seems a little bit more than a coincidence. We think they have something to do with it. And again, I think right now the best thing is that, these are the ones that formed into the 9 different personalities that the 9 seem to have, or they got integrated with them in some way. Because we do know that basically what happened when the light and the darkness, fought against each other over possession of the Yang Li Wei, they created a, pretty much like a pocket dimension. And so it's not a stretch to say, oh, well, 9 members of that got turned into dark matter and fused in with the dark matter that is the 9. It's not that much of a stretch, because we do know, thanks to who I'm about to talk about, we do know that once you turn into dark matter, you're able to communicate better with the 9. And that the 9 have been communicating with a lot of people for a number of years. And with the fact that we have the Prophecy Dungeon, with the fact that we have experienced the 9 in the Joker's Wild season, and with some of the stuff that was revealed earlier, again, the important thing is that I believe moving forward into the Witch Queen and into Light and Dark and whatever the following year's expansions will be, the 9 are going to play a very important role. So let's talk about Lavinia. So there is a Cryptarch, Lavinia, and she focused her study on the 9. She had gotten a hold of I can't remember if it was like a book or a box that had some weird dust in it that also had like a diagram of the planet. And she got fascinated with it, started investigating the 9. She was very interested in the 9 to the point where she broke into the city's archives to understand as much as she could about the 9. And one of the things I think that they said that she initially understood or learned about the 9 was that the 9, there is traces of dark matter around the sensor towers that were in the last city. And that was detected, presence of dark matter was detected before the invasion of Gaul and before the beginning of the Red War. So the 9 seemingly were involved with Gaul's invasion. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, she got found out. Ikora Ray talked to her and was like, listen, you can either drop this and stay here, or you can pursue this, but you're going to have to leave. And so Lavinia left. She went to the Awoken because the Awoken have a much better relationship with the 9 than we do. They've also been around longer. They have an understanding of the 9 that's deeper than us. But the problem is once you find out this information, you can't leave. You know? So Lavinia studied them some more, was there at the Battle of Saturn. You know, like I think, you know, the prison guards were trying to, you know, make it as a show of force to be like, this is what we can do. This is what we know. But the interesting things are Lavinia discovers, again, that Marasov and the Nine have had more communications and more planning than the Vanguard is even aware of. And she understands that, like that Marasov may be playing some cards close to the chest. So ultimately what ends up happening is that she goes to station A113, which is in orbit, I think, above the planet Ceres. It's a small space station from the Golden Age. It has portals to other worlds. One of those worlds, I think, used to be Crota's throne world until we defeated Crota. But, you know, as of recent history, it is where, at least what we know is that at least 5 of the 9 are there experimenting with transmuting dark matter into living matter, into regular matter, to try and create some form of organic life. Whether that's to build bodies for them to inhabit, we don't fully know yet. We just know that they're playing around with it in the portals there. Lavinia ran to there, was cornered by the Awoken, and in an effort to save herself, jumped into one of the portals, was instantly transmuted her into dark matter. And when she became dark matter, she was able to commune with the 9 and got an understanding of where the 9 came to be, got an understanding of the truth of everything, and then some really important stuff happened. And I'm actually, like, I'm not going to try to paraphrase it. I am going to read this word for word because I think it's very important for what's happening soon. So just bear with me as I butcher a lot of names. This is, for those of you that are interested, all of this information comes from the lore book Dust. I'm reading from the chapter The Witch.
Direct lore.
All right, so in passing, Lavinia sees the entire history of the Queen's interactions with the 9, more than anyone suspected and more vital. She sees how one of the 9 blinded guardians to Gaul's approach, risking everything, for Gaul would have destroyed the sun and the 9 with it, to learn how to steal the light. She sees how that one was punished. Come, Nasia calls urgently. Come with me. Come quickly before something dark and hypodermic pierces the void beneath Lavinia and slurps her down, pulls her through a proboscis so tiny that it breaks her apart into a stream of single particles, one after the other. She is annihilated and reborn somewhere, somewhen, made of flesh again, shaking and dripping fear sweat, mewling like a little baby. Her cheeks presses against the warm wooden floor. There's a fireplace and a fire in it. Rude. There's a fireplace and a fire in it, and a strong wind outside that sucks at the flames. The clever old lady at the desk looks up. Ah, she says. Lavinia, you made it. What? Lavinia gasps. What? She smiles, as if Lavinia's confusion is the sweetest greeting she's ever heard. Don't be afraid. You've come to exactly the right place. Where? Somewhere where you're appreciated, where we can really use everything you've learned. The old lady pours a thin stream of tea into a cup of bone. Didn't I tell you you were lucky back when you were born? Guys, in case we need to remind you who the clever old lady is, it's Sabathun. So, why is that important? In case I need to point out all the things that you needed to know. There was at least one member of the 9 that allowed for Gaul to come and steal the power so that they can try to understand how to steal the light. Lavinia has an understanding of how that all happened and what happened to him and what all the plans were. And then Lavinia was taken and turned back into flesh in the presence of Sabathun. And what we know moving into Witch Queen is that Sabathun has found a way to manipulate the light to create an artificial light that she is able to give to the hive. this may be how she's able to do it. This might be one of the things that explains how Savathun is able to do what we know she can do now. And so what's interesting is that the Nine have now found themselves tied in once again to what's going to be happening with Savathun and what the implications of this technology, the ability to steal light, means moving forward. We have no clue. We're going to find out. But again, as we continue to talk and kind of think about like how is Savathun able to do this, we know that she is the goddess of cunning and trickery, but we didn't know that this was possible until very recently. And this could be another explanation as to why.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wanted to make sure that I pointed that out. Again, as we continue to go and get ready for the next season, we have a lot of information. And now that we've been doing years and years of Destiny, what's great is that we can look at all of the lore and all the things that we have and see where we've been. And now we know where we're going, try and figure out what pieces are important that get us from A to B. And I think, obviously, Crow collecting dead ghosts and giving them to Savathun Masters Osiris. We know how she gets the ghost. We know that this might be a way that she's able to learn how to manipulate the light.
Exactly.
Starting to put pieces together.
Now, one of the things you just said is that this is how we know what brings us from point A to point B. The problem with Destiny lore is it doesn't always go from point A to B. Most times it's from point C to point Q, back to point B, back to point L. You're going to throw in a couple question marks and exclamation. Like it really doesn't make any sense. But whenever it all fits together, it is revealing a much larger story. And for those of you who are aware of the larger events and kind of the grand scheme of things, the bigger picture in Destiny, and also for those of you who've been following faithfully to our podcast, we've talked about really all of the facts that are going on here. But one thing that this really made me notice when Mr. Tweezii was putting this into a sequence of events is our focus for a long time now has been on Savathun. We've blamed her for a lot of the things that are happening in our universe, which she is rightfully to blame. She's causing a lot of problems for us.
She's done some stuff.
Where I'm going with this is that Savathun clearly is not the only major villain at play in Destiny. A lot of the stuff that came to pass and has really everything since Destiny 2 has been because of the Nine, actually. None of this would have happened if the Nine did not blind the tower sensors to Gaul's invasion. And the Nine are made of dark matter, which is possibly able to permeate time. They may be able to know exactly what's going to happen in the future. I have some idea of what they want to make happen, which is what has caused them to split into two factions. They're not just, oh, we're all like the Council of the Nine and we do everything together. Like, no, it's really like the Council of 5 versus 4, and we don't know which one is good and which one is evil. So I'm going to assume the council that is pro darkness is the one that started the invasion of Gaul and allowed that to happen. And yes, they did take a risk because Gaul wanted to blow up the solar system, but I believe that the Nine knew that either we would stop Gaul or the Traveler would awaken. And if the Nine knew the Traveler would awaken, then they also knew that it would summon the pyramid ships, which is the whole cause of everything that's happening right now, that we're really giving most of the blame on Savathun. But I think a lot of people don't see the distinction between Savathun and the pyramid ships. They're not exactly on the same team. In fact, in this season alone, in Season of the Lost, it's heavily implied and stated that Savathun is against the darkness because it's tied to the voice in the darkness, which is tied to her worm, which is sucking the life out of her, and she doesn't want to do that anymore. So my point is, don't pay so much attention to what is right in front of you in Destiny. Always remember what's happening in the background, because whatever you're about to kill is probably something that's the catalyst for another problem. So just be aware of that. Like we're never really going to get out of this cycle if we continue to just slay the next monster that's right in front of us whenever the Nine possibly the winnower and the gardener are the ones really pulling the strings here. And Savathun is aware of this. If you read her lore books, she is very aware. I believe we discussed in a previous episode where she was talking with another hive and explaining kind of her grand scheme of things, and that she's not going to hang on to her current brood because they're no longer used to her. This is why she's the goddess of cunning and trickery, because she'll do whatever it takes to get her way, anything, including sacrificing her own people.
Yeah. It's interesting because you think of Savathun and, the fact that what we're currently doing is trying to separate her from her worm. That is Mara Zob's intention, is to separate her from her worm. But we don't know what the impact of that's going to be. We don't know if that's going to be successful or fail. We know that she's still alive. But what's also scarier, right, is that we don't know if her severing her connection with the worm, if she is responsible for the death of the worm, if it still follows the sword logic, and then she gets the power of the worm.
Probably.
And maybe that's the thing that kind of takes her from
that's what the worm would want.
Yeah, bad to super bad. So we know Savathun is going to be the big evil coming up. Well, we think she's the big evil. She tries to say that she's playing both sides, but that's not the case. We all know it. It's trickery. But in every lie, there's a hint of truth. And so we will have to see, again, as we get closer to the end of the season and as we finally figure out what happens when Mara decides to sever the worm connection. How many of these pieces that have kind of been laid down kind of turn into a picture once we take a couple steps back. So, man. All right.
Great.
Well, that leads us to the wall of text.
Let's crawl out of that rabbit hole for a little bit.
Yeah. So for those of you that have not read, there have been hints for a while that Bungie was going to be taking a deeper look at the sandbox, specifically in regards to abilities, and making a determination to reduce Guardian's reliance on abilities as being the primary, the primary way that they choose to engage when in fights. Like Bungie has kind of wanted to get the game back to a place where it is more focused on the gunplay than it is on who has what abilities at what time and what your ability times out to.
Mm-hmm.
So they dropped a TWAB.
A fat one.
They dropped a very, very big TWAB. And that very, very big TWAB had a lot in it. And I'm just curious, is there anything that you took from it that you thought was really important? Obviously, it's a wall of text. There's a lot of ability changes that are going through. But what was the biggest thing that stuck out to you?
For me, two things. One, made it easier to read. Most of the wall of text, I didn't finish it, is they actually crack a lot of jokes in the wall of text about how long it is. So as a reader, it does kind of help you to know that they're understanding that they're giving you a lot of information. The main takeaway that I had personally was it seems like Discord just crashed. Give us just a moment. BRB. Okay, so for me, one of the main takeaways that I had, it really took me a little bit to understand what they were doing and talking about, we put in a bunch of knobs and we can fine tune this and that and we can change it. What I noticed is they are giving themselves more control, not only of how strong something is, because whenever it's come to balancing in this game, that's really all they've been able to do is we can make this stronger, we can make this stronger. People complain that this is stronger, so they make the other thing stronger, and it goes back and forth for years, and nothing ever really gets changed. One of the things that they are going to tackle now is countdown timers for your abilities. I found this really intriguing. Is one thing that they described that I can personally attest, I've had this feeling every time, especially in Iron Banner, is right around the 2.5 minute, 3 minute marker for any PvP match is when everybody gets their super. Whether you're getting a 3-0 KD, or if you're only killing like a couple people, you're still pretty much guaranteed to get one super per match at least. So right around the 3-minute mark, it has been pretty crazy. What they're going to do is take the roaming supers and put a longer countdown timer on them. So basically, the more deadly your ability is, the longer it's going to take you to regen that ability. One example that they did was the I think it's the fire shot grenades, or whenever you throw the warlock grenade and whenever it shoots out like the rays of sun, you'll be able to get that. They lowered the countdown timer, I want to say, to around 67 seconds from 92. So it does less damage. You're not going to be able to kill somebody with one hit, but you'll be able to use it more frequently. So that's the trade-off. Or with things like flux grenades, now you'll be able to throw them and get a one-hit direct kill. Sure, but you're going to have to take longer in between the time that you're able to do that, which goes back to what they've been saying for some time now, is they want to bring Destiny back to the gunplay and have it be not so you get one shot with abilities and people just spam abilities. And another thing that they're introducing with these countdown timers, especially, is in competitive and trials. They know that especially if it's the last match and y'all are tied at the end, people will literally just hang out in the background and do nothing and wait for their supers to regenerate. Now they're introducing a system where your super is also based on the amount of damage that you do, which is trying to make people be more engaging and not hang back. If you want to get your super faster, you're not going to get it based on how many people you kill. It's based on how much damage you do. So even if you're shooting people, but your teammates are the ones getting the kills, and you're like, hey, that was my kill, you're still going to get the credit for it, and you're still going to get super energy for it. So engage, push. It sounds like they're trying to make this a little bit more of a fast-paced game to me. But those were just a couple of the things that I noticed. It's a huge wall. There's a lot more that they talk about. Was there anything that you caught that you wanted to discuss?
I mean, we've talked about this. We've talked about this before when we talked about the introduction of Stasis subclass. We've talked about how they're going to be reworking all of the subclass trees moving forward that it's like subclass 2.0. And we knew this was coming. We knew that they're starting with the void classes and really working on that, because it is a cool system that allows players to express themselves in different ways that make sense to them. The thing that I'm celebrating is that all Titan shoulder charges are no longer one-hit kills. Because it was the same problem that people experienced in Halo Infinite, where people can blindly shoulder charge a corner and be rewarded with a random kill, where they don't have that information. They're just blindly doing it and getting rewarded. And there's no real punishment for that. So fortunately, they've done that, and that's one of the big things that I'm celebrating. But also, again, I'm very curious what this is going to mean in regards to getting back to the gunplay. Destiny 2 has had a lot of different updates regarding supers. You got to remember, there was one of the first updates that Destiny 2 got was the Go Fast update that allowed us to build up super faster, because people were complaining that you weren't getting super fast enough, especially in PvP matches. And a lot of this feels like changes that are going to affect PvE, sure, but it's going to be across the board. Like, the majority of this is for PvP activities, and it's something that's greater than what we were asking for, being like, hey, please nerf Hunter Shatter Dive, like, more than any one thing. And yeah, I think what we've started to see, like, again, there's so much stuff that is changing. Like, pointing out any one thing is kind of difficult. We really won't know until, I think it's December 7th, that they're going to roll out these changes. Right. Like, we really won't know how this is going to play or how this is going to affect the game. But I think the biggest thing that we should take away from this is that they seem to have been listening to the community about sandbox changes and building systems into their new engine, into the game that exists now, that allows them to make more frequent updates to the way that the game is playing. And I think that's something that we should draw attention to and celebrate because it hasn't always been like this. You know, so by them talking about how they put in all these controls and how they're able to fine tune the balance and stuff, I think what's really key in that is that will this turn into something moving forward where we are continuing to have this back and forth that we're having? You know, the devs have been very involved with the community and giving a back and forth with all of the Trials updates that they have been making. To try and make Trials better and bring it back to its former glory that it had in Destiny 1. They've been having that kind of communication with us. And is this a level of communication that we're going to see moving forward across potentially all game modes? You know, so where maybe we can reintroduce those pinnacles back in to be like, hey, cool, like, yeah, you can have a pinnacle weapon that isn't just, you know, something that you can get from a vendor and then you get skins for it by doing whatever. You know, like maybe we can go back to getting the guns like the mountaintops, like the ranges throwing knives, like, you know, the ranges broadsword, if you got broadsword instead of throwing knife. You know, like maybe we can bring back some of these more ritual weapons. And this is going to allow them to potentially handle things like the, you know, the mountaintop meta that we had to go through for what was more than a season. You know, the what was it, the Komodo 44, or everybody running Arbalest because you could run that as a primary to get the Komodo 44. Like maybe this is something that's going to lead to a more balanced meta moving forward. It's not going to be perfect, obviously, but maybe this is going to allow them to react in a way so that there isn't one OP weapon that everybody is using in a given season, and instead it's you know, kind of like, hey, like depending on the situation, depending on your play style, these weapons are going to be how it goes.
Right.
And that's just exciting. Plus, all the stuff with the super changes and how you build super is great.
Yeah, I find that really interesting because I can't tell you, especially in Iron Banner, I can't tell you how many times I get my kills stolen. And it really doesn't bother me because I'm over here getting like 30 plus kills a match, you know, but still, it is frustrating that I'm not getting the super and the energy rewards that I should, but I'm the one putting in the hard work and some guy's just hanging out behind me in the back so he doesn't get shot and he gets the rewards. It's not fair. So I really do like that it's going to be damage based. I want to see for the people that are, you know, really just chasing the kills and not playing objectively, are they going to be getting the supers that much more often? Will it be uncommon to see 3 supers per match? Because right now, 3 is pretty rare. Like, you have to be going hard all match long to get 3 supers. And, you know, would it be possible? 2. Exactly. Even to get 2, you have to be doing at least 1 plus 1.0 plus KD, or you're not going to get 2. But it will be interesting to see how they reward the players now versus the way it's been before. And also the fact that a lot of these changes, while they are PvP focused, for the PvE players out there, you are getting mad buffs. Like, I'm not going to list specific things, but anything that's getting a little bit of a nerf in PvP is getting pretty much across the board 15% damage buff PvE. You are about to become gods if you're not already out there slaying the ads. So really look forward to that after December 7th. It gives you another reason to jump back in. Don't think that they're only adding the Bungie 30th anniversary changes and PvP changes. You can still engage in your regular PvE activities and you'll probably have a better time at it. I know I'm personally looking forward to trying a Grandmaster after these buffs that we're getting on December 7th. So,
yeah, I'm interested to see how that changes everything too, and whether or not that has a sizable impact in the way that people choose to play. Right. And what they choose to play as, you know? But these are all future things, man. Can't wait. December 7th, man. But yeah, man, I think, you know, with all of those things, we've tackled a lot today, you know?
Yeah, got some really good topics.
Yeah, I think so. I think we did a great job. Good job, us.
Woohoo! Air 5.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, we just did that. Right. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. That's all good. Again, as a reminder, as final housekeeping before we leave you guys, episode 23 is going to be us talking about the Bungie 30th anniversary stuff and what we see with that. Maybe by that time we'll also be able to talk about these changes and how we feel about them. We don't know yet. And then we are going to be taking off until January when we come back. We're going to talk about whatever. We will probably hit on the dawning. Because we know the dawning is coming as well. We'll probably hit on the dawning. We don't know where the story is going to be at that point, but come, January, we expect that there will start to be some of those final pieces. Mara might start making some moves. We might be able to experience some stuff moving forward. So we'll push all of that into the new year. And obviously we have the Discord. Please join us. We'll have the link in the description. You can join us there. For those of you that are new, that join and are kind of confused, hey, why can't I see all the channels? After the welcome channel, you can see the rules channel. You have to agree to the rules by clicking the green check mark. Once you do that, you get access to the full server. That is just so that we can make sure that once you become a part of our community, you understand the level that we are holding you to. We try to be the best that we can be, helping new players out, get everything that they need, helping explain the lore to people who are new to the game, and just trying to be good stewards of the game. So by all means, catch us there. You can also catch us on our individual Twitches, on our individual Twitters, if we're on Twitter, and all of that stuff, again, is in the show notes. Bird, before we leave, anything you want to plug for yourself? You got anything that you're looking to play on stream? Anything that you got coming out soon?
Sure. Quick things outside of Destiny 2. I will be restreaming Guardians of the Galaxy again. That game has multiple endings, and I cannot wait to see what other things I can get to happen in the game. I also am working on platinuming God of War. May your hammer be mighty. So yeah, you can catch me. I don't know when. My streams are random. Just turn on your notifications, and that's when you'll find it. If you want me to play Destiny with you, join the Discord and use the Party Up room and tag me. Go in the Party Up room and do @Birduup when we rating, because I cannot, like, multiple times a week I see when we rating, and I say whenever you tell me in advance. So if you want me to raid with you, just give me a heads up. I got you. And that's it.
Also to plug another channel on the Discord. If you're trying to do that and you're trying to set it up for the future, we do have a Looking for Games channel where it uses a bot. You can create something. You can find a fire team of people, and you can schedule it for the future. So if you're wanting to raid and it's a Monday, but you're wanting to raid on Friday once you're done with work and you have time, you can use that channel as well to schedule future raids. Absolutely. Party Up is a lot of people that are looking for it, like, right in the here and now. Yes. So just wanted to make sure that I pointed that out to everybody who joins the Discord, that yes, you can schedule raids as well using the LFG tool. That's why we have it there.
Absolutely. Works very well. I love it. It even creates a separate Discord voice room for us specifically. So for cross-play players, we are able to communicate with you. The cross-play chat in-game has been shoddy. We've had reports of even same consoles not being able to communicate with each other. So please hop in, use our Discord servers, and abuse them and get those raids. Get those 1Ks, get those Eye of Tomorrows, get those Vex Mythoclass. I still don't have Vex. This is never gonna happen. But
I have friends.
It'll happen for you.
Yeah, it's a hard one. That's a hard one to get. All right, guys, plug my stuff. Again, I am also like Bird. I don't have a set schedule for streaming. I am working on it with all the stuff that went down with Streamlabs. I have kind of taken a step back to rejigger my entire setup. And make sure that it is good and supporting a company that I feel comfortable working with. So my streams are random as well, but you will probably catch me in the near future if I'm not playing Destiny. I am going to be playing Halo. I have been playing Halo Infinite. Man. I'm sorry, but that's a game that has had my heart. That is one of the first FPS games that I ever played, so it holds a very special place in my heart. Past that, again, you can catch me on the Discord as well. I don't chat as much, but if you ask questions in the lore channel, man, like that's kind of where I try to live is in the lore channel itself, kind of answering some questions or bringing in pieces of lore that I think are important. We're just going to grow this thing, make it bigger, badder. By the time that we come back for episode 24 in January, you're going to see we're going to put on our big boy pants and turn this into a real big thing. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the future. I'm excited for the next episode, man. I am excited for the future of Destiny with everything that we know.
Heck yeah.
But with all that being said, man, I think this is it.
That's it.
Bye, Guardians. Have a good one.